And then this is when I do my concealer, and I'm going to show you. So you can see I've got some redness on my face, and this is my concealer's number 1, which I'm pretty sure you purchased, which I'm almost out, and I've ordered some more. So I'm going to I have a buffer brush. I use a buffer brush for my concealer. So I'm just going to come in here and just get very little bit, super itty bitty little bit. And I'm just going to very lightly go over those areas where I have some redness. Okay. I'm not really caking it on. I'm just like doing a very super sheer coat. And that's what I recommend. And all of our products are our foundation, they're 50% pigmented. So because they are so heavily pigmented, a little goes a long way. And my best recommendation is to start off with just a tiny bit, and then if you feel like you need more, then add more and build it, versus putting on a whole lot in the beginning and then feeling like you have on too much. So I'm just going over those areas where I typically have the most redness. Now, some of this redness will be corrected by just the foundation. I'm just kind of going over like blemishes and things like that. But like I said, you want to make sure it's super light. Do you see how light that is? I'm not using very much at all. All right. So concealer is done. And now I'm going to use, I took my Blender-Full into my bathroom. I got it completely soaking wet, squeezed it out as much as I could, and then I got a towel and kind of squeezed out the rest. So it is damp and very nice and squishy and ready to go. So I basically do this. To start, I use the flat side of my Blender-Full, place it on directly onto the foundation, and give it a quarter twist. And that is it. Okay. Now, my preferred method for using the Blender-Full is a kind of a tapping like this. I'm kind of just tapping all over like so. The reason I use this motion, especially on areas where I have done my concealer, is that I don't want to wipe away the concealer. So doing the tapping helps a lot initially, and I'll show you what I do afterwards. I go back over it to smooth everything out. And so now this is still with just that very first quarter turn that I did, and I'm going to show you half my face when I'm done. Okay, so now you can see it has not covered, like you can still see my freckles. You can still see what looks like skin, but it's evened out the skin tone, which is basically what I want it to do. I just want it to look like I have one even skin tone. So that's the side I've completed, and that's the side I haven't. See the difference? And that was all I used, was just that little bitty bit. Okay, like that. And again, now if I look at it and I see areas that I want to have more coverage, then I would build on it, just add a little bit more. So I'm going to come back in and do the same thing, quarter twist for the second side, or the other side of my face. Again, I'm still using the tapping. For me, I like this method. There are also people who don't like the Blender-Full and would rather use a brush, and that's okay too. I just feel like, and I always recommend, especially to my customers who are trying it for the very first time, to me the Blender-Full is probably the most foolproof way of putting it on. I feel like the brush kind of takes practice, and like I didn't even start using the brush until I had been using it for over a year. And so because now I know really how to apply it, I can work with the brush. Okay, so now finishing up the second side. And there we go. So now what I do is I use the tip to get into those little hard to reach areas. Again, just kind of give it a little twist and then, you know, come back in around the eyes, around the nose. Now, I have these deeper pores on the sides of my nose. You can see I'm missing product right there. So a lot of times what I do is I just take my finger and I get a little bit on my finger and then I just kind of rub in those little spots. Not necessarily trying to get it down in the pores, just to cover those pores up. And then I go back over with my sponge again and kind of tap it so that it removes any of the excess area. And then what I do, well, one thing I want to, do you see this loveliness right here? Let me show you. I'm going to put some more of my concealer on that. That little loveliness right there. So, and then go back over it with the foundation. Now, I do wipe down my neck to, you know, get rid of the line if there's any line. Now, I know your color's not right, and I feel very badly about that, and I want to help you get that corrected and get it where you want. I definitely think it's too light. I think that because it's too light, it probably is causing you to see a lot of things that you don't want to see. When you have a concealer or a foundation that's too light, then we notice more things, right? Because there's such a harsh contrast between your actual skin and your foundation. So either we can get you a darker foundation, you can return what you have, or you can keep what you have and order a darker and mix them to make sure that you're going to get the right color. Or you can take some of your concealer number 3 and mix it in with your foundation until you're able to get a darker color foundation. So those are a couple of options that you have. You may have to play around with the color a little bit till you get it the way you want, but I definitely do think that the color is probably causing you to feel like you're seeing more things on your face. So I think once we get your color good, I think once we you know, get your application down, I think you're going to be really happy with it. So, so there we go. And then the last step I usually do is I take this, you know, more rounded side of it, and then I come back in and if I see places where I've got too much, that's when I just smooth it out, spread it out, get rid of any excess. If I see any excess, that kind of thing. So, and I know you ordered the number 3 because you had darker circles. So, you would obviously do your eyes before you did your foundation, and then do your foundation on top of that. So that is how I recommend applying your foundation. And like I said, I just really feel like it's one of those situations like it was with me. I just was using too much. And when you use too much, it's definitely going to look cakey. A little goes a long way because of how heavily and highly pigmented it is. So then your next step after you do your foundation would be to apply your translucent powder. I can't remember if you bought any powder or not, but if you haven't, I do powder. This is, you know, it looks kind of crazy because it looks white, but then it goes on translucent and it just helps to set in your foundation. And then now what I do during the summertime is I do that. Then I usually will spray on my setting spray. Then I do my makeup, the rest of my makeup, my eye makeup, my blush and everything, and I spray again. So it's like I'm trying to lock in all that makeup so it stays in place and it doesn't go anywhere when I'm out in the heat during the summertime. So, and then like I said, then I would take my setting spray and spray it on like so and let it dry.